Humanity stood its ground, and that's when the true war ignited. The night sky over Seoul glowed with unusual activity as astronomers at the Global Space Observatory huddled around their monitors. Dr. Han rubbed her tired eyes, checking the signal readings for the 5th time. This wasn't equipment failure. This wasn't a false alarm. "Everyone, I need your attention," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The room fell silent as screens displayed the unmistakable pattern, regular, artificial, and definitely not from Earth. News of first contact spread across the globe within hours. People filled streets, their faces illuminated by phone screens, showing the same footage, strange lights moving against the stars. Scientists worked around the clock, religious leaders called for calm, and governments issued carefully worded statements urging people to continue normal activities. Then, 7 days after the initial signal, they arrived. The ships darkened skies. Over major cities, massive structures that defied conventional physics, hovering silently above New York, Beijing, Moscow, and 30 other metropolitan centers. Global communication systems activated simultaneously with a message in all languages. "People of Earth," the transmission began, "your planet has been claimed by the Vazrathi Collective. Your resources will serve our needs. Resistance is unnecessary and wasteful." The world held its breath. Stock markets crashed. Some fled cities, while others locked themselves indoors. Military forces worldwide went on high alert, though no one knew if Earth's weapons would have any effect against such advanced technology. In an emergency session, the United Nations faced the most important decision in human history. The Vazrathi had given Earth 72 hours to establish a surrender protocol. "We cannot fight something so advanced," argued some leaders. "Cooperation might save lives," but others stood firm. "Surrender guarantees our extinction on their terms instead of our survival on ours," said President Lee, her words echoing through the chamber. "Humanity must stand united." The vote was unanimous. Earth would not surrender. When the deadline passed, the Vazrathi attacked. Energy weapons carved through buildings in Tokyo, drones deployed over London, releasing paralyzing agents. Sydney's harbor boiled as alien craft descended beneath the water, but something unexpected happened. Earth fought back. Fighter jets scrambled worldwide. Although many were instantly destroyed, pilots learned to use cloud cover and terrain to their advantage. Ground forces discovered the alien foot soldiers, while imposing in their armored suits, could be overwhelmed by coordinated attacks from multiple directions. Dr. Han and her team worked frantically to understand the enemy. They analyzed attack patterns, communication frequencies, and energy signatures. "They expected us to be primitive," she told military leaders during an underground briefing. "They didn't plan for resistance. That gives us a small window of opportunity." Across the world, ordinary people joined the fight. Subway workers in Paris led civilians through underground tunnels past alien patrols. Farmers in Kenya used their knowledge of the land to ambush alien scouts. Software developers created programs to interfere with enemy communications. 2 weeks into the invasion, humanity achieved its first significant victory. A coordinated strike in Bangalore destroyed an alien command post, capturing intact technology. Scientists around the world shared data, working together in unprecedented cooperation. Colonel Kim led defense operations from a bunker outside what remained of Seoul. "We may be outgunned," he told his exhausted troops, "but we're not outmatched." In determination, when the Vazrathi deployed their next wave of attacks, they encountered new human tactics. Radio operators broadcast on frequencies that seemed to disorient the alien forces. Missiles had been reconfigured based on captured technology to penetrate their shields. The cost was tremendous. Cities lay in ruins, millions were displaced, and food shortages began in many regions. But humans adapted faster than the Vazrathi anticipated. Each encounter provided new information, each defeat offered lessons, and each small victory fueled hope. 1 month after the invasion began, Dr. Han made a breakthrough. Studying recovered alien technology, she identified patterns in their shield, harmonics. "Their defensive systems operate on predictable cycles," she explained to Colonel Kim. "There's a 3-second vulnerability we can exploit if we time our attacks precisely." The information spread through secured channels to resistance fighters worldwide. For the first time, humans could reliably damage the invaders' equipment. The Vazrathi, facing unexpected losses, adjusted their strategy. They targeted power grids and communication centers, attempting to isolate human resistance groups. But people found ways to connect, through old radio equipment, through coded messages, through determination. When the alien forces began constructing what appeared to be permanent structures in captured territories, humanity realized the fight was far from over. This wasn't just an invasion, it was colonization. "We need to coordinate globally," Colonel Kim insisted during a rare video conference with leaders of remaining free territories. "Individual victories won't win this war." As the meeting concluded, sensors detected a massive energy surge from the Vazrathi flagship, hovering over what had been Shanghai. Everyone prepared for a devastating new weapon. Instead, the sky filled with escape pods as the flagship erupted in flames. The first major Vazrathi vessel had fallen, destroyed by a precisely targeted attack exploiting the shield vulnerability. Dr. Han had discovered. Cheers erupted in command centers worldwide as footage spread. For the first time since the invasion began, the alien forces retreated to regroup. Humanity had stood its ground, and in doing so had changed the course of the war. No one knew what would come next, but one thing was certain: the true fight for Earth had only just begun. 3 months had passed since the Vazrathi arrived on Earth. The initial panic had transformed into grim determination as humans everywhere adjusted to life under siege. Major cities around the world lay in ruins, with nearly half the planet's surface now under alien control. The invaders had established extraction facilities, massive structures that drilled deep into the earth, pulling out minerals and resources at an alarming rate. Dr. Han hadn't slept properly in weeks. Her makeshift laboratory, hidden in an abandoned subway station beneath the remnants of Seoul, buzzed with activity despite the late hour. Engineers and scientists worked around the clock, examining pieces of alien technology salvaged from battlefields. "Look at this," she said, gesturing to a junior researcher who had been analyzing a damaged component from a downed scout ship. "The power distribution isn't random. It follows a pattern." On the other side of the world, Colonel Kim coordinated resistance efforts from a mountain bunker. Maps covering the walls showed Vazrathi strongholds in red, with blue markers indicating the remaining human-controlled areas. There were far too many red zones. "We can't keep fighting like this," said his communications officer, her face gaunt from stress and poor rations. "We're losing ground every day." Kim studied the latest field reports. "We don't need to win every battle, we just need to win the right one." That night, as rain pounded against the bunker's concealed entrances, they received an encrypted transmission from Dr. Han's team. The message was brief but changed everything. "We found their weakness." Through painstaking reverse engineering of the downed scout ship, Dr. Han's team had discovered that Vazrathi technology relied on a sophisticated but predictable energy matrix. Their shields, weapons, and communication systems all shared this vulnerability. They needed 3 seconds to reset after reaching certain power thresholds. "It's like their systems need to catch their breath," Dr. Han explained during the emergency strategy meeting that followed. "If we can force their systems to reach maximum output, we get a 3-second window where they're completely exposed." Colonel Kim immediately understood the implications. "We need to target their command vessel. Cut off the head and the body will falter." The plan they developed was audacious. Resistance fighters worldwide would launch simultaneous diversionary attacks, forcing the Vazrathi to power up defensive systems across all their outposts. Meanwhile, a small strike team would approach the main command vessel hovering over what remained of Beijing. Preparations moved quickly. Engineers modified weapons using Dr. Han's specifications. Pilots trained in simulators programmed with the exact timing needed. The operation had a name now, Turning Point. On the morning of the attack, Colonel Kim addressed the strike team. 20 pilots stood before him, representing survivors from air forces around the world. "Today isn't about revenge," he said quietly. "It's about giving humanity a fighting chance. Some of you won't return, but because of your sacrifice, billions might survive." No one spoke of the odds against them. They all knew. As dawn broke across Asia, the global resistance unleashed coordinated attacks on Vazrathi positions. Underground fighters in Europe destroyed power transfer stations. Guerrilla forces in South America targeted landing pads and supply depots. Australian submarine crews launched missiles at underwater extraction facilities. The Vazrathi responded exactly as predicted, deploying defensive measures everywhere, stretching their network to its limits. Colonel Kim monitored the operation from a mobile command center. "Strike team, you have your window, make it count." High above Beijing, the massive Vazrathi command vessel glowed with energy as it directed the global defense. The strike team approached from different directions, ordinary cargo planes retrofitted with salvaged alien technology and conventional explosives. As they closed in, Vazrathi defensive systems detected them. Energy weapons powered up, targeting. "The approaching aircraft. Stay on course," ordered the strike team leader. "We need them at maximum power output." Beams of energy lanced through the clouds, destroying 3 planes instantly. The survivors continued their approach, forcing the Vazrathi to increase power to their weapons. Monitors on the remaining planes showed the alien energy readings, climbing rapidly toward the threshold Dr. Han had identified. "Almost there," the strike leader said, her voice steady despite everything. 5 seconds, 4, 3, the command ship's energy matrix hit its peak and began its reset cycle. Now, the 7 remaining aircraft unleashed their payloads simultaneously, not at the vessel's obvious weak points, but at precisely calculated locations Dr. Han had identified, where power redistribution nodes would be most vulnerable during the reset. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a series of explosions rippled across the massive ship's surface. Its steady hover faltered. Secondary explosions followed as internal systems cascaded into failure. The enormous vessel, nearly a kilometer long, began tilting sideways before breaking apart. Pieces crashed into the already devastated city below, while escape pods jettisoned in all directions. In his command center, Colonel Kim watched the live feed with stunned silence. Nobody had expected such complete success. Even more surprising was what they discovered afterward. Among the debris, recovery teams found intact data cores, the equivalent of the Vazrathi Central Intelligence System. Dr. Han's team worked feverishly to decode the information. What they learned changed everything they thought they knew about the invasion. "They're not just random conquerors," Dr. Han explained during the urgent briefing that followed. "They operate like a hive, with strict hierarchies. The command vessel we destroyed wasn't just directing the invasion, it was controlling it." Throughout the world, resistance fighters reported the same phenomenon. Vazrathi forces had become disorganized, some units even withdrawing completely from contested areas. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had breathing room. Not victory, not yet, but a chance to regroup, rebuild, and prepare. As Colonel Kim studied updated maps showing Vazrathi forces in retreat, he knew this wasn't the end. "They'll be back," he told his officers, "and next time they'll be ready for our tactics." But so would humanity. Already, Dr. Han was using the captured intelligence to develop new countermeasures. Engineers worldwide were incorporating alien technology into Earth's defenses. The tide hadn't turned completely, but a corner had been rounded. Humanity had proven itself not just stubborn, but dangerous. And somewhere in the vastness of space, the wider Vazrathi collective was undoubtedly taking notice. The sky burned with the red glow of sunset as the last military transport rumbled into the underground garage beneath what remained of Seoul's City Hall. 2 months had passed since humanity's victory over the Vazrathi command vessel, and slowly, carefully, people were beginning to rebuild. Not just buildings, but hope. Dr. Han wiped sweat from her forehead as she examined the readings on her tablet. The underground laboratory hummed with activity even this late in the evening. Teams of scientists and engineers worked around pieces of salvaged alien technology, trying to understand enough to build better defenses before the inevitable Vazrathi return. "You should rest," said Colonel Kim, appearing beside her workstation. His uniform was wrinkled, his eyes shadowed with exhaustion. "Even brilliant minds need sleep," Dr. Han shook her head. "There's too much we don't know, too much we need to understand before they come back." Their conversation was interrupted by the blaring of alarms. Red emergency lights flashed throughout the complex. Perimeter breach in Sector 7, announced. The overhead speakers. Unknown craft approaching. All personnel to battle stations. Dr. Han and Colonel Kim rushed to the command center, where wall-mounted screens showed radar tracking an object falling from the upper atmosphere. Its trajectory was erratic, not the controlled descent of Vazrathi ships they'd observed before. Prepare. Defensive measures, ordered Colonel Kim, his voice steady despite the tension filling the room. But hold fire until we know exactly what we're dealing with. The object, clearly a ship of some kind, crashed into the Sahara Desert with enough force to register on seismic monitors worldwide. Satellite imagery showed a design different from previous Vazrathi craft. It was smaller with sleeker lines and appeared heavily damaged. Could be a trick, said one of the senior officers. Perhaps they're testing our response. Colonel Kim studied the images carefully. Maybe, but something's different. Dispatch reconnaissance drones, but keep our forces at a safe distance. The drones sent back footage that surprised everyone. The crashed ship's occupants weren't Vazrathi. They were smaller, with 4 arms instead of 2, and skin that shimmered with a pearlescent glow. Most importantly, they were clearly injured, struggling to repair their vessel with limited resources. They're not attacking, Dr. Han observed, and that ship design is unlike anything in the Vazrathi fleet. After careful deliberation, Colonel Kim authorized a cautious first contact team. Dr. Han insisted on joining, arguing that scientific expertise would be essential. Approaching the crash site under heavy guard, the human delegation watched as one of the aliens stepped forward. It wore no weapons and raised all 4 hands in what appeared to be a universal gesture of peace. We seek sanctuary, it said in halting English, clearly speaking through some kind of translation device. From common enemy. Over the next few hours, a remarkable story unfolded. The aliens called themselves the Nayari, and they had once possessed a thriving civilization across several star systems. That was before the Vazrathi came. Not conquerors, explained their leader, who called himself Te. Harvesters. They strip planets of resources, then move on. Your world is merely one of many they have targeted. Inside their damaged vessel, the Nayari showed the human star charts detailing Vazrathi expansion over centuries. Dozens of civilizations had fallen before them. Why did you come here? Colonel Kim asked, suspicious despite the shared enemy. Why Earth? Te's large, luminous eyes blinked slowly. Because you fought back. Because you damaged them. No one has done this in generations. The Nayari had been watching Earth since the invasion began, monitoring from a stealth vessel. When humanity destroyed the Vazrathi command ship, they decided to risk everything on a desperate gamble, to offer alliance. We have technology, Te said, gesturing to various devices within their ship, designed specifically to combat Vazrathi systems. We offer this knowledge in exchange for protection. Dr. Han examined one of the devices, a small disk that emitted a strange energy field. What does this do? Disrupts their shield harmonics, explained another Nayari named G. Makes them vulnerable for brief periods. Colonel Kim remained cautious. Why would you help us? What's your true purpose here? Te's expression changed in a way that somehow conveyed deep sadness, despite his alien features. The Vazrathi conquered my homeworld 83 of your years ago. I was born in captivity. Those of us who escaped have been hiding, watching, waiting for any civilization strong enough to stand against them. He gestured toward the star charts. We are not the only ones. Many species suffer under Vazrathi rule. Many watch Earth now with new hope. Back at the command center, world leaders debated the unprecedented situation. Some argued for caution, suggesting the Nayari might be manipulating humanity for their own purposes. Others saw an invaluable opportunity to gain advanced technology. Dr. Han worked through the night with G, examining Nayari technology. Despite their physical differences, she found an unexpected connection with the alien scientist. Your approach to quantum field manipulation is fascinating, G commented, watching. Dr. Han work. Different from ours, but elegant in its own way. We've had to improvise, Dr. Han replied. Adapt what we could understand from salvaged Vazrathi technology. That's remarkable, G said. Most species simply surrender when facing such technological disparity. Your people are unique in our experience. As days passed, the tentative alliance strengthened. Nayari engineers helped human scientists understand critical weaknesses in Vazrathi systems. Human doctors treated injured Nayari, learning about their biology while developing treatments. What began as necessity evolved into something more profound. Cultural exchanges began. Nayari shared stories of their lost civilization, while humans introduced them to music, art, and literature. At a crucial meeting between military leaders and scientists, Tai displayed a communication they had intercepted. From deep space, the Vazrathi speak of Earth with new terminology, he explained. Not as a harvest world, but as a threat. They are gathering a much larger force. Colonel Kim studied the intercepted message. How much time do we have? 3 months, perhaps. 4, Tai answered. They will return with numbers far greater than before. Dr. Han stood up. Then we have work to do. With the Nayari's help, we can upgrade our defensive systems, modify our weapons. It may not be enough, said Colonel Kim. Soberly, Tai's forearm gesture conveyed something between determination and resignation. Perhaps not, but together we have a chance that neither of our peoples would have alone. As they prepared to leave, Ji approached Dr. Han. There's something else you should know. Other subjugated species are watching what happens here. If Earth stands against the Vazrathi again, then what? Asked Dr. Han. Then you won't be fighting alone, Ji replied. Others will rise. The oppressed grow weary of hiding. That night, as Dr. Han looked at the stars from a rare moment of rest, outside the bunker, she contemplated the strange turn of events. Human survival now depended on an alliance with beings from another world, united by a common enemy. Cosmic irony, she murmured to herself. We spent centuries wondering if we were alone in the universe, only to discover we're all connected by the same struggle. Tomorrow would bring more work, more preparations for the coming storm. But tonight, for the first time since the invasion began, Dr. Han allowed herself to feel something beyond determination and fear. Genuine hope that humanity's stand might spark something larger than Earth's own survival. The distant rumble of engines filled the dawn sky as thousands of Vazrathi ships appeared at the edge of Earth's atmosphere. 3 times larger than the first invasion force, the massive fleet darkened the horizon like an approaching storm. People worldwide watched on their screens, a collective breath held in anticipation of what was to come. In the command center beneath Seoul, Colonel Kim stood before the assembled military leaders from around the world. His uniform was crisp, his expression calm despite the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. They're back, he said simply. But this time, we're ready. The past month had transformed Earth's defenses. Nayari technology, combined with human engineering, had produced weapons specifically designed to combat Vazrathi systems. Orbital defense platforms now circled the planet, built with reverse-engineered alien tech. Fighter pilots had trained in simulators programmed with Vazrathi battle tactics. Dr. Han entered the command center, followed by her Nayari colleague Ji. They had barely slept for days, making final adjustments to their most important creation, a signal disruptor designed to interfere with the Vazrathi hive mind communication network. Is it ready? Colonel Kim asked. Dr. Han nodded. Theoretical models show a 70% chance of success. We won't know for certain until we deploy it. That's the best odds we've had since this war began, said Colonel Kim with a grim smile. The first wave of Vazrathi ships entered Earth's atmosphere, but unlike before, they were met with immediate resistance. Orbital platforms fired concentrated energy beams that pierced alien shields, using frequencies developed through Nayari guidance. In spacecraft transformed by alien technology, Earth's pilots engaged the enemy above major cities. Their maneuvers were no longer just defensive. They attacked in coordinated formations, targeting weak points in Vazrathi ships that the Nayari had identified. Colonel Kim directed the space battle from the command center, his voice steady as he issued orders through the global defense network. Concentrate fire on their flagship. Draw them into Sector 4 where our orbital cannons have overlapping fields. The battle raged across the sky. visible to civilians below as flashes of light and distant explosions. Unlike the first invasion, most Vazrathi ships were being kept at bay, unable to reach the surface. "They're adapting," warned G, watching the tactical displays. "Changing shield frequencies. Our weapons will become less effective within hours." "Then we deploy the disruptor now," decided Colonel Kim. Dr. Han activated a sequence on her tablet. Throughout the command center, screens flickered as power was diverted to the device her team had built, a global network of transmitters designed to broadcast on exact frequencies that would interfere with Vazrathi neural links. "Activation in 3, 2, 1. She counted down, then pressed the final command. For several seconds, nothing seemed to happen. Then, on the tactical displays, Vazrathi ships began moving erratically. Some drifted off course, others fired. Weapons at empty space or even at their own vessels. "It's working," someone shouted. "They can't coordinate." The command center erupted in cheers, but Dr. Han remained focused on her readings. "The effect is temporary," she cautioned. "Their systems will adapt within 20 minutes. We need to push the advantage now." Colonel Kim immediately issued orders through the global network. "All forces, concentrate fire on primary vessels. Priority targets are their command ships." What followed was a coordinated assault, unlike anything in human military history. Earth's combined forces, using technology that blended human innovation with Nayari science, struck at the heart of the Vazrathi fleet. Pilots reported seeing Vazrathi ships colliding with each other, their usual precise formations dissolved into chaos. Ground forces engaging alien troops that had managed to land found them disorganized, unable to communicate effectively with their commanders. The battle that became known as the Stand turned the tide of the war. By sunset, nearly 60% of the Vazrathi invasion force had been disabled or destroyed. The remainder retreated to high orbit, regrouping into defensive formations. In cities around the world, people emerged from shelters to witness something unprecedented. Vazrathi ships in retreat, climbing back into the sky pursued by Earth's defenders. The command center was subdued despite their victory. Everyone understood this wasn't the end, merely a reprieve. "They'll be back," said Colonel Kim, studying the tactical displays showing the remaining Vazrathi forces. "And they'll have countermeasures for our disruptor." "We'll improve it, Doctor," Han replied, already making notes on her tablet. "Refine the frequencies, develop rotating patterns they can't easily block." G approached them, his expression communicating concern despite his alien features. "There's something you should know," he said quietly. "The ship that retreated first. It bears markings of the Vazrathi High Command." "What does that mean?" asked Colonel Kim. "It means we've done more than repel an invasion force," G explained. "We've damaged their pride. In thousands of cycles. No species has ever pushed back a full Vazrathi assault. The High Command will take personal interest now. As night fell, recovery teams worked to collect downed Vazrathi technology. Hospitals treated the injured. Defense forces maintained vigilance, watching the remaining alien ships hovering beyond Earth's atmosphere. In a quiet moment, Dr. Han stood on the roof of the command center, looking at the stars beyond the faint glow of distant Vazrathi vessels. "Do you think we can win this?" she asked Colonel Kim, who had joined her. He considered the question carefully. "Today, for the first time, I believe it's possible. Not easy, not certain, but possible. The Nayari say other species are watching what happens here," she said, "that our resistance might inspire others." "Then we better put on a good show," he replied with the hint of a smile. In orbit aboard the remaining Vazrathi command vessel, the Supreme Commander received reports of their unprecedented defeat. For the first time in the long history of their conquests, they faced not just resistance, but the real possibility of failure. A communication was dispatched to their home system, requesting reinforcements not from their standard harvesting fleets, but from their main military force, a resource they had never before needed to deploy against a single planet. The message was simple. Earth represents a threat unlike any encountered before. The primitives have technology they should not possess. They have allies they should not have found. They have defiance that cannot be tolerated. On Earth, Preparations for the next battle had already begun. Humanity had tasted victory, and it had changed everything. The massive ship appeared without warning, emerging from what scientists later called a controlled space-time rupture. Unlike the utilitarian vessels of previous Vazrathi forces, this craft gleamed with intricate designs etched into its metallic surface. Nearly 3 kilometers long, it dwarfed the remaining Vazrathi fleet orbiting Earth. In command centers worldwide, alarms blared as sensors detected the new arrival. Tactical officers stared at their screens in disbelief. "Energy readings are off the charts," reported a technician in Seoul's underground headquarters. "Whatever this is, it's nothing like what we've faced before." Colonel Kim studied the vessel's image, his experienced eyes noting weapon emplacements and shield generators far more sophisticated than previous Vazrathi technology. "Prepare all defense systems," he ordered, "and get me Dr. Han immediately." When Dr. Han arrived, accompanied by the Nayari scientist G, their expressions confirmed what everyone feared. "It's the Supreme Commander," G said quietly, "the highest authority in the Vazrathi hierarchy. They never personally intervene in standard harvesting operations." "Until now," added Dr. Han. "All communication systems on Earth activated simultaneously. Televisions, radios, phones, computers, all broadcasting the same message." A figure appeared on screens worldwide, taller than standard Vazrathi, with ornate armor and 6 eyes arranged in a pattern that somehow conveyed both intelligence and cruelty. "People of Earth," the Supreme Commander began, its voice translated into all human languages, "your resistance has been noted. It is unprecedented in our long history of harvesting operations." The being paused, its multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "You have been granted an audience with the Supreme Command, an honor never before extended to a harvest world. This recognition comes with an opportunity. Surrender now, and a portion of your species will be preserved as laborers. Continue your defiance, and you will face not our harvesting force but the full military might of an empire spanning hundreds of star systems." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a stunned silence across the planet. Within hours, the United Earth Council, formed during the invasion to coordinate humanity's response, convened in emergency session. Representatives from every surviving government gathered physically or through secure links. "We've intercepted communications between their fleet," Dr. Han reported to the assembly. "What we've faced so far was merely a standard harvesting force, essentially their resource collection team, not their actual military." Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. "How much stronger is their military?" asked one representative. G stepped forward, his forearms moving in nervous patterns. "The Vazrathi control over 300 star systems. Their full military force includes planet-destroying weapons and numbers beyond what you've seen by factors of thousands." The chamber erupted in fearful discussion. Some argued for negotiation, suggesting that partial survival was better than complete annihilation. Others insisted that surrender would only postpone extinction. Colonel Kim waited for the noise to subside before speaking. "The Vazrathi aren't offering mercy. They're offering slow death instead of quick. Their labor. Camps are death sentences stretched over generations. We've seen this in the Nayari's historical records." President Young, who had led South Korea through the initial invasion, stood slowly. Though elderly, her voice carried strength earned through crisis. "We did not defeat their first wave by cowering in fear. We did it by standing our ground, by believing humanity deserves to exist on its own terms." She looked around the chamber. "I say we continue that stand." Over the next 24 hours, humanity debated its response. Families discussed whether to fight or surrender. Religious leaders sought guidance in ancient texts. Military strategists calculated impossible odds. In Dr. Han's laboratory, Nayari and human scientists worked frantically, trying to understand the new Vazrathi vessel's capabilities. "Their technology is generations beyond what we've seen," Dr. Han admitted, studying energy readings. "Our current weapons may not penetrate their defenses." G placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Perhaps victory isn't about matching their firepower." "What do you mean?" "The Vazrathi rule through isolation, keeping conquered species separate, preventing alliances. Yet here we are, Nayari and humans, working together. That alone terrifies them more than any weapon. The deadline for Earth's answer approached. In a historic broadcast watched by every human on and off Earth, the United Earth Council delivered humanity's response. President Young stood before the camera, her weathered face calm despite everything. To the Vazrathi Supreme Command, we have considered your terms and reached our decision. She paused, her gaze steady. Humanity stands its ground. We reject any future that begins with surrender. If you want our world, you will have to take it against our will, as free people, she continued, her voice gaining strength. We speak not just for humans, but for all beings who deserve to chart their own destiny. Today, Earth stands not just for itself, but for freedom across the stars. The response was transmitted, and the world held its breath. The Supreme Commander's reply came not through words but action. Massive reinforcements began appearing at the edge of the solar system, thousands of vessels emerging from space-time ruptures, forming battle formations. In command centers worldwide, the mood was somber, but determined. Colonel Kim addressed his officers. We always knew this was coming. Now we fight with everything we have. Yet unexpected developments were unfolding across the galaxy. G received communications from hidden Nayari outposts. The news of Earth's defiance was spreading rapidly among subjugated species. After centuries of silent submission, something was stirring. Resistance cells are activating throughout Vazrathi territory, G reported excitedly. Sabotage operations against their supply lines, communication disruptions. Some mining colonies are in open revolt. Dr. Han looked up from her work. They're fighting because of us. Because Earth showed it's possible, G replied. You've become a symbol, the first real challenge to Vazrathi dominance in living memory. As Earth prepared for the coming assault, Colonel Kim received an unexpected communication request from a species neither human nor Nayari. The translator struggled with their language, but their message was clear. They too had suffered under Vazrathi rule, and they too were now fighting back. More importantly, they had ships, weapons, and strategic information to share. Then another communication came, and another, each from different species, each offering alliance against their common oppressor. What had begun as Earth's desperate stand for survival was transforming into something far more profound, the first coordinated challenge to an empire that had expanded unchecked for millennia. The true war wasn't just for Earth anymore, it was for freedom across the stars. As Colonel Kim shared this news with Earth's leaders, Dr. Han worked with scientists from 3 different alien species, developing weapons that combined their various technologies. What the Vazrathi had prevented for centuries through careful isolation was now happening because of their invasion of Earth. Species were learning from each other, combining strengths, finding common purpose. The war that followed would reshape the galaxy. It would not be quick or easy. Planets would fall. Heroes would emerge from unlikely places. Old hatreds between human nations seemed trivial now against the backdrop of cosmic struggle. But in that moment, as humanity prepared for its greatest challenge, a simple truth emerged. In standing its ground, Earth had ignited something far greater than its own defiance. It had struck the first spark of revolution across the stars,